Right now, the final push.
You get a vote, and you get a vote, and you get a vote.
Now's the time.
We have seen an incredible increase in the number of people voting absentee for this election.
This is one of those election cycles where your vote does matter.
What's at stake in the midterms?
You can choose a bigger, more hopeful, more generous vision of America. But to do it, you gotta vote.
But everything we have achieved, and it's monumental, is at stake in this election.
Political star power energizes voters.
Let's make sure that blue wave hits a red wall right here in the Badger State.
It is our fight. Take it back.
Minnesota Nice tossed out as the clock runs down.
The Attorney General should not be someone who transgender kids fear.
Frankly, folks, there is a special place in hell.
Now, from Minnesota's most watched station, this is the Politics Show on WCCO.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, I'm Esme Murphy. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday morning.
And I'm Pat Kessler. It's raining right now, but hey, this could all turn to snow. In fact, it could happen again on Election Day. So we begin this morning with meteorologist Mike Augustinek. What do we see out there, Mike?
Weather a player in your Sunday plans and your Tuesday plans. And what we're seeing just in the past few minutes here from our Shoreview sky view is some sideways snowflakes floating by. It's 37, but that northeast wind gusting to 22 feels like 30. And you can see as we take a look at the radar, it is a mix of rain and wet snow around the Twin Cities metro. The farther east and northeast you go, the better chance you'll run into pure snow. And there could be some light slushy accumulations through northern Wisconsin and even around Duluth as we go through the day today. And a peek at the forecast for Election Day Tuesday has a storm similar to today's coming in. Rain will change to snow during Tuesday morning. Accumulation for some, mainly in northern Minnesota and in northern Wisconsin, and wind for all of us. So Tuesday is going to be a pretty nasty day. We'll come back and tell you what to expect, not only for Election Day, but the entire week, which looks pretty wintry overall. That's in a few minutes.
Oh, man. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. Well, the contentious campaign season is winding down. It'll all be over in less than 2 days on Tuesday, of course. Leaders from both parties are making an all-out effort, sprinting to the finish line. Yesterday, DFL nominees were joined by elected officials in the state capitol in St. Paul. They believe health care is their winning argument. Meanwhile, Minnesota's GOP candidates made stops on their bus tour before Election Day.
And many Republicans, including President Donald Trump, are putting a renewed focus on immigration. The president is in the midst of a rally blitz, holding 11 rallies in 8 states over 6 days. But how much influence will the president have on the midterms? Frank Vassalero spoke with Face the Nation's John Dickerson about that.
John, talk about the Trump effect a little bit. How much influence is the president having on the midterm elections?
Well, we don't really know the effect he's having. I mean, he's certainly having an effect on the news cycle, and he's certainly, by talking about things from birthright citizenship to sending the military to the southern border, he's certainly capturing the attention of the news cycles. The question is he just rallying his base? What's he doing with that portion of the Republican Party that really voted for him because it was a vote against Hillary Clinton? And what are those voters now doing? Are they turning out? Are they turning out to vote for Republican candidates, or are they voting for the Democrats? So one of the big questions on Tuesday night is looking at the themes he used, basically the focus on immigration, and the places he went, and to see whether he did anything to help Republican chances in what, so far, by every other indication, looks like a strong Democratic midterm.
We have 4 tight congressional races here and a tight race for Senate as well, and we've seen millions in outside money pour into Minnesota. How does Minnesota fit into the big picture, especially when you look at the House race?
That's right. I think, what is it, 2, 3, 1, and 8? The congressional districts are the 4 that, and I guess what interests me about Minnesota is there has been, or there was, this thinking that the president had realigned the country a little bit in 2016 in the Midwest in general, and that is by reaching out and talking to certain kinds of voters that had traditionally been considered in the Democratic camp. Has that stuck, or will we see in Minnesota, but also in Wisconsin and Ohio and Michigan, will we see resurgence of Democrats, and then what kinds of Democratic voters?
Well, I think the president has solidified a realignment here in Minnesota, especially if you look at the 8th congressional district. That is the sprawling northeastern quadrant of the state, Duluth on up to the Iron Range down to Lindstrom. I think the president has garnered this district that used to be a hallmark of Democratic strength here in Minnesota.
Yeah, and we'll see how it turns out. But the president has been to Minnesota twice in the last few months. But now he appears to be appealing to the base of his base. So he is going with immigration and the caravan and those. But he's campaigning now in the southern part of the United States and the western part, but his effect on Minnesota will be seen on Tuesday.
Absolutely, and I think this is all about President Trump. I do think this referendum is, or this election is a referendum on the president. Now, Minnesota House Speaker Kurt Dowd says internal polling shows greater Minnesota is becoming even more Republican.
But what I think people sometimes don't understand in the suburbs is that out in greater Minnesota, Donald Trump is far more popular than he was 2 years ago. You know, we see polling numbers that show the president is probably as much as 10 points more popular in some areas in greater Minnesota, which I think would surprise a lot of people in the suburbs because there are areas in the suburbs where he's not as popular, right?
Esme, I think in Minnesota, there are parts of the state where the president is more popular than he was in 2016, particularly in rural Minnesota. But that's not where the votes are. In this election, it will be important, however, because the congressional races all around the state are going to be so important, and Trump's influence, the president's influence, will be seen in those races.
And you do see a chipping away at what was once a solid Republican base in the suburbs. Look no further than the 3rd congressional district, where Congressman Eric Paulson is in trouble from a Democratic challenger.
That's one of the issues that we're seeing with the president out there talking about immigration and those kinds of issues. He is not appealing to college-educated white women in the suburbs, and that's where we're going to see some really big interest and voting on Tuesday.
You heard John Dickerson mention 4 tight congressional races in Minnesota, but the website Real Clear Politics notes a 5th, the 7th congressional district, all along the western border of Minnesota. That's where Democrat Collin Peterson is trying to keep his seat. He's been in Congress since 1991. He narrowly defeated Republican challenger Dave Hughes in 2016, and this is a rematch. Dave Hughes running against Collin Peterson again.
Yeah, now, I wouldn't be shocked, but it might be surprising, in fact, if Dave Hughes pulls this out. Remember that Collin Peterson, as we said, has been in there since 1991. If he is elected and Democrats take control of the House, he will be chairman of the Agriculture Committee in Minnesota. That is enormous. That is a huge deal for them.
But let's talk about the 7th congressional district. Donald Trump won this by 31 percentage points. This is Trump country, and you've got a Democrat sitting there holding the congressional seat. Logically, this should be a Republican seat, but Collin Peterson has built up decades of goodwill here.
He is a conservative Democrat, and he's somebody who fits his district and has for a number of years. Hughes is underfunded, but he appears to be overperforming. Again, I would be really surprised if this happens, but it could.
Right. Well, Minnesota is in record-setting territory for spending on state races for governor, attorney general, and the Minnesota House. Now, that's according to a first-of-its-kind report from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs.
It looked at every dollar of political funding pouring into Minnesota. It found $34 million has already been spent on Minnesota races for governor, attorney general, and the Minnesota House, and that is on top of the record $100 million that's already been spent on federal elections for Congress. Republicans running for the Minnesota House also have a strong money edge over DFL candidates in the House. So, Esme, I think this report shows that, in fact, the legislature is under the radar here, but Republicans are outspending Democrats.
Well, there's so much to talk about that they haven't gotten enough attention. But the thing about the House that's important, you heard the House Speaker here just a few minutes ago, Kurt Dowd, say every vote really does count. Well, it really does count, especially in these Minnesota State House races. Many of these races, as you know, Pat, are decided by a few hundred votes, sometimes even less than that.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now is tens of thousands of dollars being poured into these races. There's a couple of dozen House races that could determine which way the House is going to go. And we're going to know this early on election night, that, in fact, who is going to control the House, the Republicans, which I think a lot of people believe because of the money advantage will happen. but anything could happen.
Right. The fight for the Minnesota Attorney General's office is one of the most controversial races in the state. And a new poll from KSTP Survey USA shows Democrat Keith Ellison has regained a lead over Republican Doug Wardlow. But with 12% of voters saying they're still undecided, this really is anyone's race. Because of that, both candidates are taking these remaining days to try and sway voters.
We are just 3 days away from retiring Keith Ellison from politics in Minnesota. Now, my opponent, Keith Ellison, he has said he wants to use the office to sue the president over and over and over, to wage a national political war. He's going to be too busy waging his national political war to really take care of the things Minnesota needs done.
We don't want division and denial and exclusion coming from the Minnesota's Attorney General's office. This race is fundamentally a choice, and it's a clear one, between two visions of our state.
The election clearly taking a toll there on Congressman Keith Ellison's voice.
Yeah, this I think is the most controversial race in Minnesota in the midterms this year, and it's going to be very, very close. What's really interesting to me, again, is how many undecided voters there are. I don't remember seeing this many undecided voters with this little time left in the campaign.
Well, what's interesting to me is what we saw from the Star Tribune, where they declined to endorse either one of these candidates, really giving them both a scathing review, saying that they were not worthy of being Minnesota's Attorney General. My question is, will voters go to the ballot box and not vote in this race? In other words, vote for governor, vote for Senate, vote for other races, and skip this one?
Yeah, I think there is going to be an undervote there, but somebody is going to be elected to this race, no matter how many or how few vote.
And it's an important job.
Yeah. Up next, we'll break down the battle on both sides over control of Congress and the Senate with Anthony Salvato. He's Director of Elections and Surveys at CBS News. Plus, it's looking like a cold, damp day across the state. Mike Augustinak will tell us how the weather could affect Election Day.
Watching the Politics Show on WCCO with Pat Kessler and Esme Murphy.
Well, Minnesota is proving to be the purple state in this midterm election. We are home to several important key races, of course, that could flip parties.
And that will have a major impact on politics in Washington. Earlier, we spoke with CBS News Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvato, about why Minnesota matters.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Esme. How are you?
Hey, we're doing great. We're doing great. Anthony, we are seeing that at least 4 Minnesota congressional districts are up for grabs, kind of unusual in the state, and not just districts that Hillary Clinton won, but also a couple of Trump districts. What are you seeing? What kind of trends are you identifying?
You certainly have a lot of action up there. We'll be watching it on election night. There's a couple of districts up there that the Republicans would like to try to win, try to flip. And, you know, that's not that usual this year. Most of the districts we see coast to coast, just to put it in context, and they fall in suburban areas. We are following them not just around you, but from New Jersey to Florida to Southern California. I have to emphasize, most voters say the economy is good, and that could very well help the party in power, which means it would help the Republicans. So I think in many ways, what voters decide can depend on what they decide on, what their main criteria is when they cast that ballot.
Let me ask you about the rural-urban divide, because we're getting guidance from Republicans here in Minnesota that President Trump is even more popular in those rural areas where he did so well in 2016. Are you seeing that nationally, and is that something that you think could be happening here in Minnesota?
Yeah, I think that tells you a lot about where the president is going in these final days and about the Republicans' chances for holding the Senate. You know, a lot of these Senate states, from Missouri to North Dakota to Montana, places where Republicans are hoping to flip, take back seats from the Democrats, are heavily rural. And that is partly because the president gets very strong support out in those states, out in those areas. His approval rating is relatively better out there. So I suspect that has a lot to do both with, as I say, his travel plans, but also for the Republican chances and where they're sort of putting their emphasis, trying to hold on to that Senate majority, maybe even grow it.
We might have an unexpected race here in Minnesota with Tina Smith, the U.S. Senator, running against Karen Housley, the Republican, closer than I think people expected it to be. Are you seeing any trends there, and does the Trump popularity or lack of it in Minnesota affect this race?
Well, your state was certainly closer than many expected 2 years ago, so we won't overlook it. And again, it's really a case where I have seen some reports that the Democrats are putting more money in there. Both of those races were at least edge, if not leaning Democrat heading into these final weeks. But it's one of those things you always have to pay attention to, whether it's in the upper Midwest or, as I said, across the Midwest. A lot of these states are so close, the polls have them so close, that even if we only see a handful of voters who say they're undecided about who to choose or who, whether to show up, it could have an impact and it could have an influence. And I think underlying this story very much is, especially across House races, we see Democrats' chances really depend on, there are about 1 in 5 voters who tell us that they haven't voted in midterms before. Maybe they've shown up for other bigger elections, presidential elections, but not in 2014, not in 2010, but they say they're voting now. Well, if those voters show up, the Democrats' chances get much better in our models. But if those voters stay home, as they have in past years, overall, the Republicans' chances get a whole lot better, Pat.
All right. Well, Anthony Savada, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll certainly be watching CBS on Election Night.
Yeah, good luck on Election Night.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, there is snow in the forecast on Election Day, folks, in some parts of our state. Mike Augustinak has been checking out all the models lined up with the congressional districts.
Yeah, we are expecting mainly northern Minnesota to get some wet snow. It is not going to be a blockbuster storm, but we know sometimes it doesn't take much to alter the way people think about voting and whether or not they go out and when they do it. So we'll cover that all coming up. Also, some rain and snow falling right now, so we'll get to that first. 34 in Red Wing from our weather watcher, Barbara. In addition to the 1/4 inch of rain that fell in the rain gauge, there's a 1/4 inch layer of slush on everything this morning. So the changeover from rain to snow started first southeast of the Twin Cities, and then it moved up into Wisconsin, and now we're seeing a little bit even here in the Twin Cities metro. Temperatures from really all the weather watchers you can see are generally in the mid-30s this morning. Here's the metro core. You can see rain on the west side of the metro, a mix of rain and snow in downtown Minneapolis, and more trending towards snow as you head to the east into Washington County. Southeast and south of the Twin Cities, there's a little bit of snow mixing in as well. And as we head up through the North Metro into Balsam Lake, Wisconsin, Meenan, Wisconsin, Rice Lake, Hayward, enough cold air, just a couple of degrees cooler, that it is wet snow falling right now. Forecast calls for that to continue, but what's actually going to happen is through the afternoon, a little bit of warm air will sort of wrap in on the backside of the storm as it pushes north. So what is now snow in Rice Lake will likely go back to a chilly rain by later in the day. Snow pushing into the North Shore and the Boundary Waters as we go through the afternoon into the evening. And then that whole system wraps up and pulls away. So through the overnight tonight and for tomorrow morning, it should be just cloudy and dry. Consistent temperatures right through the afternoon into the evening, 40 or so for the temperature, with rain showers through the end of the Vikings game, tapering off as we head toward dinner time. Tonight's lows within a few degrees of freezing, so watch out. There could be a few slick spots up north. Tomorrow, a milder day, 48 in the Twin Cities. And then Tuesday, Election Day, another similar system to what's happening today comes in. Main storm will be out across the Great Lakes by early Tuesday morning, but the secondary area of low pressure will deliver a slightly cooler air mass through the morning, and winds will crank up as well. And so that means any moisture that's left over during the day on Tuesday will change over to some wet snow. Right now, it looks like the best chance for a slushy inch or less will be north of the Twin Cities, including northern Wisconsin. But there are parts of north central and northeastern Minnesota that could get an inch or two of slushy accumulation. For a little more in-depth look at that, we did a Facebook Live, Esme and I did earlier this morning. That's on WCCO's Facebook page. We get all into the nitty-gritty of the Election Day forecast. Following that, it gets quite chilly in here. Highs only in the 20s.
And we actually broke it down by congressional districts.
So
that's all of you, yes.
I'm old enough to remember that we've always had election days in November.
Yes.
Apparently it's a thing.
It is. Yes. It's
so
written somewhere.
There you go. Well, still ahead, the fight for Minnesota's top office. Congressman Tim Walz and Commissioner Jeff Johnson call each other out on an ad Republicans insist is a new low in politics. Well, it appears the road to the governor's office will go right through the doctor's office.
Yeah, both candidates, Tim Walz and Jeff Johnson, are focusing in on health care for a final issue to drive up support. This week, an ad attacking Johnson claims his proposed policies would hurt the poor and disabled. The ad is from the Alliance for a Better Minnesota. It shows a young man who is physically disabled in a wheelchair. He says if Johnson is elected, people like him will have a harder time getting health insurance.
They are using a disabled young man to say that Jeff Johnson will not provide any health care coverage to poor, disabled children. I think that is despicable. It's obviously false. But they don't seem to care about that. Is that fear-mongering? Are you okay with that commercial?
I've not seen the ad, but the fact is...
You can't tell me. Everybody's seen it because it's on every 10 minutes.
Here's my pro tip, Jeff. I don't watch TV during these last few weeks. I've been through these before.
There's no way you haven't seen that.
Well, that is good professional tip. Don't watch the ads.
But watch us.
Yeah,
Everyone,
absolutely.
yes, okay.
This is a really important issue. Jeff Johnson is being attacked because people are saying that his critics are saying he will not provide all the pre-existing conditions we have now. Now, Tim Walz hasn't really revealed how much his medical health plan will cost, but both of them are going at it.
Well, but Jeff Johnson supports an opting out of Obamacare, and the tenet of Obamacare is support for pre-existing conditions. It's a mandate, and studies have shown that if you opt out of this mandate, there are going to be problems, and you have done reality checks on this.
Well, Johnson says he will, in fact, have a new program for this that will guarantee access. We don't know if it will actually guarantee coverage. So.
Across the border in Wisconsin, the race for governor has brought in some major political star power. Polls show the race between Governor Scott Walker and Democrat challenger Tony Evers is a toss-up.
I'm here to ask for your help and your support and your prayers along the way, but I particularly need your help because this race is as close as it can be.
Just 3 days away from a historic election day all across this state and all across this nation, and I am here to say that Wisconsin and America need 4 more years of Governor Scott Walker.
The appearance in Hudson with Vice President Mike Pence comes on the same day the Evers campaign, or Evers was making stops across the state, including Appleton, Wisconsin.
On the core issues that Wisconsin people feel strongly about, education, making sure we have a good environment, roads, health care, there's a stark difference between Scott Walker and myself.
Boy, Democrats would really love to have this state back.
Absolutely. The thing about this race, though, it is incredibly close. The polls have been shifting back and forth. It did appear that Evers had an edge. Now we're not so sure. And our friends here in western Wisconsin, Scott Walker is counting on you to deliver this race because it's a heavily Republican area of the state. It remains to be seen, though, if Scott Walker can pull off another term. Yeah, this is really something. We hope you're going to make WCCO your home for election night. Starting at 8 o'clock, CCO will have extended coverage, including the latest returns and analysis from our team on TV, online, and on social media. Now, thanks for joining us this morning. We'll continue this conversation online in just minutes on WCCO's Facebook page. You can find out more about the candidates and your polling place at WCCO.com/election guide. And this is going to be really something on Tuesday night because we're going to have all of these resources and you can go pretty much anywhere. We're going to give it all to you. So watch us Tuesday night. All right, enjoy your Sunday, everyone. Thanks, everybody.